to our service of worship as we gather together here and online and in print. And welcome to our new faith family, or the group who've been a part of our faith family for a number of months now, Trinity United Church in Chapleau. And it is a joy that we can all be together on this, the third Sunday of Advent. I also bring you greetings from Vince and Rita Baird. They reached out and wanted to wish everyone a safe and happy Christmas, and they tell us that they really miss us. And they miss that we're not going to be able to help out with the Christmas index, but they're with you in spirit. Rejoice always. Pray without ceasing. Give thanks in all circumstances. Do not quench the spirit. Do not despise the words of the prophets, but test everything. Hold fast to what is good. Abstain from every form of evil. And may divine peace sanctify you, and may joy fill your soul. We gather in anticipation for what is yet to come. We are reminded of the hope that comes to us in this most magnificent story, and of the peace that was envisioned by the ancestors and dreamed by Jesus. And today we light our candle of hope, or of joy, which reminds us that even when things are not the greatest, there are blessings in the midst of it and causes for great joy in our lives.
Friends, I invite you to sing our Advent candle lighting song. Just make sure that that mask is up over your nose and under your chin, please, fully covering. Feel free to sing along softly with us.
Today we remember the people who have brought joy into our lives and given us light on our journey. We think particularly of Hilda and Norman Curry. Marjorie and Ariel King. Norma Dixon. Gordon Cruikshank. And Lisa McCulley. Thanks be to God. A reading from the Gospel named for Luke. My soul is filled and my spirit rejoices. I have been chosen, and I do not know why, but I am blessed. Sacred mystery has been revealed in me, and I lift up my voice in praise, and I will proclaim good news. Mercy and love surround us, and justice will prevail. The proud are scattered, the powerful brought low, the hungry are fed, and victims are set free. Earth's children are remembered, and the promises of old have been fulfilled. Let us pray. We've raised our voices, uniting ours with the melody of the angels. We've heard the words from our sacred story, and we pause now and open our hearts and minds and spirits that we might hear a word for us in this time and in this place. And may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable this day. Amen. The passage I just read for you from Luke's Gospel is known as Mary's Song, or the Magnificat. It is believed that these are the words that Mary spoke from her being as she came to terms with the life that was growing within her. Having communed with Spirit, she knew that the one within her was chosen, a promise, and she believed that through this child, the prophecies of the ancestors would be fulfilled. And so she gave thanks and praise and proclaimed the good news that the hungry would be fed and the captives would be set free and all earth's children would be blessed. It was a moment of great joy for her. I think sometimes we forget, though, that this joy, this praise, this voice came in the midst of great tribulation. Things were not as Mary had anticipated. They certainly were not what she had prepared for. It wasn't her dream, at least not yet. Here she was, the story tells us, still technically a single woman, engaged and getting ready to marry, but certainly not there yet, and she finds herself pregnant. It was devastating, I imagine. I don't know for sure what Mary was thinking or feeling, but if I think about what it was like in those days, what we know about the culture of that time, I can imagine that Mary was anxious and even terrified, perhaps even a little bit angry that this had happened to her now, and wondering, A, how was she going to tell Joseph? How would Joseph react? Would he even marry her still? And if she didn't, how was she going to tend and care for a child on her own in that time and in that place when we're at the bottom of the totem pole? And having a child before you were in a relationship that was sanctified was pretty much a no-no. And she would not have had the means to even provide for the basic needs of her child, not to mention the shame that she would have been bringing upon her parents and the ridicule that they would have suffered. So it was not a fun time. And yet, somehow, in the midst of that, Mary found great joy and blessing. How did she do that? Well, if we listen to the stories, she found that by turning to her faith. She spent time connecting with the divine presence as she knew it to be. She cried out, she wondered, she questioned, and somehow in the midst of that, she heard a word of hope, of promise. And she knew deep inside her that things would be okay. And she began to view it then through the eyes of faith. She listened to the stories of the ancestors and had this feeling that she too had been chosen for something that ultimately would be amazing. And so she found the strength and courage she needed to raise her voice in praise and thanksgiving. And what was disaster was transformed into joy. Now, I think that every one of us here can identify with Mary. Now, maybe not the exact same situation, maybe some of you can, but some of you can't. But that concept of finding yourself in that place where you never dreamed you would be. Finding yourself dealing with a situation that you had never prepared for, that you didn't see coming. Being in a place where you have felt this anxiety and fear and depression and anger. Where we find ourselves right now as a world puts all of us in that place. Over the last months, we no doubt have all experienced those things at one point or another, and we certainly wouldn't have chosen to be here in the midst of a pandemic, wondering what is going to come next. But we can do as Mary did. For in our faith, we can find courage, strength, pieces of hope to hold on to, and empowerment, so that we too can find the blessings in the midst of the crap. I think when we look at it through the eyes of faith, then we too can raise our voices in praise. I know for me, it does come from listening to the stories of the ancestors and finding myself within them. Seeing how the connection with the holy gave them what they needed in their time and space. And those stories remind me that that is also there for me. The stories remind me that I am never alone. No matter what, I am never alone. I am always held in the arms of divine love. And if I look at what's happening around me through the eyes of faith, I can see those things. I can see the hope. I can see the promise. I can see the moments of joy and peace, for it is revealed all around me. It's revealed in creation, in the songs of the birds, in the whisper of the wind, in the pelting of the rain, and eventually the falling of the snow, which we can wait for that revelation. But there's always those moments in the created order that touch us at the core of our being and can help us to see and experience a moment. And that moment is empowerment, it's strength. Remember a couple of Sundays ago, Sunday evening, it was the day of the full moon, and we had been out visiting friends of ours, and we were driving home from the countryside, and so it was devoid of all those street lights, and we could see this huge, beautiful moon, and the stars were gorgeous. And just driving in the midst of that, there was this sense of, wow. And I knew a moment of joy and a sense that things would be okay. And that gave me strength to move into the next day. And it was good. When I view the world through the eyes of faith, I see those reinforcements, those transformations, those moments of joy being lived out in the people around me. I see it being lived out in you as we gather, as Vince talked about in his greeting to us about the Christmas Index program, where we are doing things to bring that joy into the lives of people we don't even know. I see it revealed and lived out in the ways that I see you tending to one another, holding one another, sharing in moments of laughter, even in the midst of despair. Joy. That's what this day is about. About inviting us to see our lives, our situations, through the eyes of faith. To feel that connection with the holy deep down inside, until we are strengthened, empowered, and transformed. And when we do, we too can join our voices with the voices of the angels and sing and proclaim, as Mary did, good news to all the earth. Let us unite our hearts in prayer. We gather in praise and thanksgiving for all the ways we have come to know divine love and feel the joy within. For family and friends and caregivers and companions and the strangers we meet along the way. For the creation that floods our souls with images of wonder, beauty, and possibility. For the stories of the ancestors, and particularly we give thanks for Mary, who was able to feel the joy and become part of that joy for others. We gather today in care and concern for those who are sick in body, mind, or spirit. For those who are lonely and frightened. For those who live in situations of abuse inside or outside their home. For those who live in the midst of war and upheavals. For those who suffer from discrimination of any sort. For those who walk through the valley of the shadow of death. We gather in hope that the pain and suffering around us will be eased, that we will find a way through this current time, that justice will prevail and become a standard of life for all, and that we might be reconciled one to the other. Together we pray.
We
And now may we have the ability to see the signs as the wise ones did, and follow these signs to create a better tomorrow. May we have the courage of the shepherds and leave our places of comfort and safety to see this thing that has come to be. May we, like the angels, raise our voices that all might hear the divine song, peace on earth, goodwill to all. Just sit for a second. There are a couple of things that I would like to remind folks of, and that is that we exit by this door over here on Lawrence Street. So again, balcony members, if you walk around and come down here, this is where we exit. If you have offering that you would like to give and haven't put it in yet, there are offering plates in the balcony. here at the front and here at the back door as you leave. Also, this is not time for us to be lax, and so just a reminder that I know we all want to gather and talk and do that, but you really shouldn't gaggle. Remember that for those outside your bubble, you should remain a 2-meter distance away from one another.
Friends, I have an exciting announcement, and that is that this coming Saturday night at 7 o'clock, we will have our Candlelight Christmas concert. It will be unlike any other, but it is ready to go, and it will be available in your inboxes and on your computers for Saturday night. Meanwhile, there will be a teaser released on Tuesday night at 7, on Thursday night at 7, and then the concert. Tune in and join us Saturday at 7 from the comfort of an easy chair rather than a hard pew.
Also, a reminder that if you plan to attend Christmas Eve services, we have in-person worship at 6, 8, and 10, and you must register. And the date for registration is quickly approaching, so please, if you haven't done so and plan to attend, please register with the church office by Friday of this coming week. And that is because I need to do seating arrangements, and this time it's not just for Sunday morning worship, it's for 3 services. Well, actually 4, because we also have a service on Christmas morning at 10 o'clock as well. If you aren't going to come in person and want to join us online, there will be 2 online Christmas services. Both of them will be released by noon on Christmas Eve. One is a children's service, which includes being led to understand the meaning of Christmas by Pippin the Pig. And we will also have an online Christmas cantata featuring the choir of First United Church, and that too will be released by noon on Christmas Eve. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other announcements that we should be reminded of before we leave?
White gift.
Yes. Today is, in its strangeness, is White Gift Sunday. If you have tags for gifts for our families for this year, please make sure that those gifts are brought in to the church hall as early this week as possible. Those Christmas index boxes will be delivered on Saturday of this coming week, on the 19th. So those that are putting those things together need to have it so that they know what we don't have, so they can go buy it. So please make sure you get your gifts in for those families. Cleaning?
The seats.
Oh, that's taken care of. Yeah. Anything else? Then have a joyous week.